Hey, John.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I get John Dye on the show. I'm pretty excited, actually.
I'm excited to be here. This is a really cool deal here you got going on. So this is an honor to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
I love doing this. You talk to trades guys as well all the time. I mean, you're a roofing specialist.
Yeah, I've been in this for a little while, and you're right. This is I've learned that as I transitioned, my career has transitioned more into the speaking events and doing stuff like this. I really enjoy it, and I think it's become one of my favorite things to do as far as talking to roofers and contractors and helping them understand what their job really should look like and entail when they're dealing with insurance companies.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great place for us to start. So if you're listening to this show and you think, oh, it's just about roofers, I shouldn't listen, that's exactly why you should listen. So first of all, roofers are going to
Absolutely.
listen because you're John Dye and everybody wants to hear it. But the number two thing is, if you're not a roofer, you should listen to this show because we're not talking about roofing. We're talking about the
Right.
business of the construction business and
Yes, sir.
systems, processes, smart
Mhm.
ways for business owners to work smarter. I always
Yep.
remind people we have to work from the neck up, right? Or
Yeah.
in my case,
Makes
from that
sense.
single eyebrow up, whatever it might be.
A single eyebrow.
The single. Now, the people
My
who've
wife
never
takes
seen
care
me
of
are
that.
like, what does this guy look like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say my wife takes care of that stuff for me, so I don't have to.
You can't leave the house looking like that.
Pretty
Oh,
much, I get that all the time. So,
I used to, back in my corporate days, before I left corporate, I worked for a leasing company, one of my jobs. And so in leasing, you're selling money, right? And quite often you're selling money for like a forklift or a piece of capital equipment, right? Like a crane or something like that a guy couldn't get financing for through the bank. So they get this phone call from Dominic Rubino from Copelco. That was the name of the company. And then every once in a while, I'd get this guy who was really quick on the phone and he'd say, let me get this straight. I can't get financing through the bank. So I get a phone call from Dominic Rubino from Copelco who says he can take care of my money issues. He goes, you see why I might be nervous about this meeting? And we're joking
I
back
can
and
only.
forth. Yeah. But then I would say, well, let's meet and, for coffee somewhere and just have a conversation about the needs. And they would say, well, how am I going to recognize you? And then I would say, of course, well, I've got no neck and one eyebrow. And then it's just, they're like, I don't know if I want to have this meeting. Obviously, all in good joking, but it keeps people laughing.
Well, I just watched that Irishman movie. So,
Oh yeah, so did
I learned a
I.
lot about that stuff. That was a good movie. I was very impressed. It was long, but it was good. It helped me on some flights
It was really long.
just recently.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was.
I don't have the guts for any of the stuff they do in those shows, but it makes for good TV. Jeez.
Yeah,
Anyways,
me
John,
neither.
um, let's give a little bit of context here. Let's paint the picture of who John Dye is and how I invited you to be
Absolutely.
on this show because you're talking to contractors, you're talking to professionals in the construction industry who are trying to run their businesses better. So why would we have you here?
Well, I'm a like a third or fourth generation contractor. I can go up 3 levels right now. I don't know about the fourth. I've never met someone that knew my great 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 grandfather, but um, I do know though my dad was a contractor. My grandfather was a brick mason. My great grandfather was a blacksmith. So these guys all worked with their hands. They were
Mm,
tradesmen. It's in my blood, and so naturally, I kind of went down that road as well. A little bit jagged road for me, but went to Bible college and got into ministry and some other stuff, but ended up somehow finding my way back to the roofing industry. My dad got into roofing in 2000. He was a general contractor before that, so he was a commercial contractor
sure.
out of Chicago. Did a lot of big commercial jobs with some large clients that he had, J.C. Penney's, Baskin Robbins,
Oh,
and Dunkin'
big.
Donuts. Did these combos. Yeah, they were doing these combo stores. He did a bunch of those all around Chicagoland. All kinds of stuff like that. That was his world. Those were his accounts, and he sold his business to move to Indiana to be to go into seminary and become a minister. And so when he did that, he
Wow.
still had to make money. My mom wasn't going to let him just sit around, so he went to work for a roofing company and started
She
selling
wasn't going to
roofs.
let him sitting around saving people. Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, she didn't. My
You
mom.
have to provide for your family, of course. Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to say this as politically correct as I can, but my mom had a certain level of her lifestyle was at a certain level, and she did not want to bring that down.
I get it. Yeah, of course.
So,
Of course. Yeah.
so he went to work and went to work for a roofing company. We got really involved on the insurance side of things. And so I was probably 13 at the time. And I learned how to climb roofs and measure and do all the stuff that they had to do back then. And over time, I learned Xactimate and started doing my own jobs. And other people in the offices started giving me their jobs. And I ended up becoming a third-party supplementer in 2010.
Wow.
So, yeah, I kind of stumbled into this. Didn't realize there was a market for it. I just knew that I had a skill that apparently very few contractors had the patience and the tenacity to work with insurance companies, and they didn't know how to talk to them. And so they started giving me their files. I started to work on their behalf as a third party administrator and just kind of working. There was no other contractor or no other businesses doing exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And so this whole industry kind of was born from there.
It's pretty interesting because even now when I talk to people about supplements that don't know about supplements, they think I'm talking about vitamins for meatheads.
Yeah, I get that a lot too.
You're like, you deal in
My
supplements?
phone still autocorrects. It doesn't know what supplementing is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's
a very interesting background. And you found that there was enough need out there so people were recognizing, hey, I know supplements work in roofing and I can't do the paperwork myself, or I'm not doing it right.
Well, what was happening in the industry was that insurance companies started to develop these guidelines that were stricter and stricter and stricter.
Are they ever?
And I'm an adjuster now too, so I actually ended up going on their side for a while. I did a lot of CAT work, and I still hold a license. And what I learned from being an adjuster is how these guidelines really are and how they're designed to essentially not lowball a roofer, but they basically limit how much is allowed to be paid upfront on the claim.
Right.
And so systematically, a guideline is a great money-saving tool for a large insurance company to save money on these claims. Because, we look at it historically. I've been doing this now over 10 years, and it's around $2,500 that a guideline is going to cost a roofer and on an average job. And so that's a massive amount of money, and it's a massive amount of profit that they just basically took. And it makes sense from their part, though, because very few roofing companies are going back and asking for that money or getting those items approved or documenting it the right way to get them approved. They don't understand how to do it. And so that's what we were trying to fix.
Let me ask you something here, John, because not everybody's familiar with this aspect of it. Tell me about the $2,500 you were talking about there. What does that mean?
Okay. So they'll use they'll take off like step flashing or drip edge, or say you're going to be able to reuse the step flashing or reuse the drip edge, or they'll say that the ridge cap and the starter shingles that are used typically, that they'll say that's included in the waste. When in all reality, we have some very sophisticated waste reports we use that show that no, that's not correct. You can't take a gable roof and just say 10% is enough waste for that roof. It's going to require a lot more than that. And typically, it's going to be double that if you want to include the ridge cap and the starter in that number. And so we have a lot of tools that we use to basically show the insurance company, look, here, this is what an accurate estimate looks like. And the other part of it, too, is frankly, roofers, most of them are, or not most of them, I shouldn't say that, but there's a large percentage of roofers that aren't replacing the drip edge. They're reusing the drip edge, or they're reusing the step flashing. They're cutting corners to save money. The insurance company started to recognize that. And so they built their guidelines assuming that all roofers are doing
the
that.
same thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And so when a roofer does show up that's a legitimate roofing contractor and is doing things the right way, it's very simple to get those items approved, but they just have to show the reasoning why and give the insurance company the proper justification to then pay those items.
Nice. And that leads us to today's subject, which is, I didn't want to cut you off, but this is where you come at from saying, don't work for free. Like we don't want you working for free, right?
That's absolutely true. And I learned that as a kid. Like that was my, growing up in a roofing home or in a construction home. I mean, as a kid, my dad was like adamant that everything he does has to have a dollar number assigned to it. We don't work for free. I mean, he wrote his first contract when he was 14, and my grandfather taught him that, and my great-grandfather taught him that as a contractor, if you want to be a contractor and be successful,
it's about contracts.
You have to bill everything and do everything correctly. Now, thankfully, in the insurance world, we have what's called Xactimate, which is a software that is a component-based billing software. And so that's what we use. We use the same software the insurance companies use. We just know what those line items are, how to use them. We have a lot of people that are certified in it. I talk to Xactimate coaches and teachers all the time, and they teach us how to actually use the software correctly. And the software is great because it is 100% component based. Every nail, every fastener, everything that is in part of the job is listed in there. But most roofers and most contractors don't know how to use it. You could theoretically build an entire house in Xactimate and write an estimate for that.
Yeah. Those softwares are fantastic. And you know what this goes to underline, John, is something I talk about as much as I can, which is the money's not on the ladder anymore. When you own a roofing company, and for people listening who aren't roofing contractors, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, the money's not in the sawdust. The money's not in the topsoil. The money's not in the sheet metal. The money's in the office. And I made a joke earlier that we get paid from the neck up. We actually get paid to think and put systems in place, because a business is just a collection of systems that work at a profit.
Correct.
That's the line you're taking here as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, because you're absolutely right. The money in my mind is in the details. It's in that line item. I'll give you an example. So there's a line item there that is for the roofing, for the shingles to be installed. So it's a laminated shingle, and it'll say this line item is for a roof loaded price. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what does that mean if you're in a state like Indiana, where I'm from, where our suppliers don't roof load for us? We have to manually load that roof.
You have to get it up there.
We have the materials dropped on the actual driveway, and then we have to manually lift those shingles up. Yeah. So when you read the line item and you understand that, wait a second, this is a roof loaded price, and it says clearly that there may be additional costs associated with moving the shingles, blah, 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 all this other stuff. When you read all that and you point that out to an adjuster and say, hey, look, you paid for the shingles, but you didn't pay us to actually load the roof and stock it and set everything up, which is a whole nother 2 hours worth of labor or whatever it takes. We have documentation of two guys lifting shingles up for an hour. We have a photo before and a photo after. It's timestamped. We know exactly how long it took, and now we can bill for those labor hours. That's just an example of understanding the systems and how they actually work.
But I've got a question for you, because you were an estimator or adjuster. Sorry.
Yes, sir. I was an adjuster.
Adjuster. Are you open with your adjuster hat on? Are you open to that conversation if I come to you and say, look, these weren't roof loaded. They got rolled off the truck, left on the driveway?
That's the problem, is as an adjuster, if you're a licensed adjuster, you got to be real careful, especially if you're a licensed adjuster that works for one firm or is trying to keep their job, because adjusters are being cut out of this left and right. They're all being every week we're hearing more and more adjusters are being let go. They can't find work. It's not like it used to be, because of all the changes that are coming to the industry now. There's adjusters' jobs are basically to be inspectors. So what ends up happening a lot of times is the outside adjuster is not going to pay for almost anything. They can only pay for what they can pay for based on their guidelines. I went through this whole thing when I became an adjuster, and when I was adjusting large claims. Like, they almost fired me several times because they're like, we're not going to be able to pay this. And I was holding a line and being principled about it and saying, it's owed. And they're saying, well, we'll only pay it once they ask us for it. Otherwise, we're not going to pay it. And so we had to write it.
Yeah.
It's very important to understand, like, an adjuster can always say yes, or say they can always turn a no into a yes, but they can never turn a yes into a no. So a lot of contractors will show up with an adjuster on the roof and say, you need to pay for this, this, and this. And the adjuster is a good adjuster that's been around for a long time, he's going to very vaguely not pay for it or not agree to anything, because he's going to demand that you come back and ask for it later on. There's going to be someone with higher authority that has to approve that. A field adjuster can rarely approve those items out in the field. And so they're going to be very vague about it and not actually say it. I got subpoenaed twice because I paid for roofs that the insurance carrier turned them into repairs. They were large tile roofs. And so they called me up and they said, hey, you've been subpoenaed. The policyholder sued us. And they're saying that you agreed to pay for it. And I said, I did agree to pay for it. I bought the roof. This was a hurricane deal. They called me back and said, you don't need to come down to Florida. We've taken care of it. We've settled these claims out. And it's because my testimony would have destroyed everything. I have the authority lies in the adjuster to basically make those decisions.
Right.
And so they're very, the good ones that are still around that are adjusters, I just shouldn't say good ones, but the company guys, they've learned how to play that game, essentially, how to ride that line to keep both sides as happy as possible. But adjusters are in a bad spot.
They're in a tough spot.
That's really
why
are.
I know you through the art of the supplement.
Yep.
So just for a second here, tell people a little bit more about your background in this social media world and the art of the supplement and balance claims. And then let's get back to this topic.
Yeah. Art of the Supplement is it's basically a course that I designed a couple years ago. I was working with individual clients, consulting them on how to set up their own internal supplement teams, essentially, rather than having to hire out a third-party administration company. Yeah. So I was teaching them how to document, how to do all the things they need to do, building the systems inside their businesses. And I still do that to an extent at times. But then we decided that we wanted to go on the road with this. And so we built the Art of the Supplement Boot Camp, which was a one-day seminar. And so throughout 2019, we started doing this in April, ended up doing 35 events. We had 499 people come through the events this year, which was a phenomenal number, I believe, for our first year.
Yeah,
it was, and it's been a great year.
Yeah,
and
people,
I had a great time. Yeah, we were selling individual tickets, so people would come. They would bring 4 or 5 people their team. They would sit, and we would rent out a room at a hotel, and we would talk about this whole process and how to document, how to do all these things properly and do them the right way.
Yeah.
And I had insurance companies send their investigative units to my classes because they wanted to know, what are you teaching these guys?
Really? Did they tell you, or did they sort of sit in the back with dark glasses and a hat?
They would sit around and they would try to get in the room, but I knew who they were. And so, because I got all the email addresses of everyone that signs up, all this stuff. So I'm going through it and I knew exactly who they were. And at the end of the class, I would pull them aside and say, hey, what did you think? And they would say, well, we don't, there's nothing wrong with what you're telling these guys, because what you're telling them is how to document and how to do their job the right way so that they can get paid the right way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Follow the system.
And exactly. It all comes down to cost incurred. And so when you're able to present this to an insurance company and say, hey, look, this is what we actually did. Here's all the photos. Here's all the documentation. Here's all the stuff that you need to validate and to make this payment to an honest contractor at that point. It's a whole different conversation, because most contractors are taking what the theoretical side of it, throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and seeing what'll stick, and then hoping that an insurance company is just going to pay them for what they are putting in their estimate. And so they'll inflate these estimates and grossly try to take advantage of the insurance companies, rather than being very systematic and building a really smart process on how to get these things approved. And it takes a lot of time to do it the wrong way. Doing it the good way, the smart way, cuts down the amount of time you spend on this. And so you end up getting your money faster and you get a lot more of it approved. And that's the goal. And
you can back up your claim. And your account doesn't get flagged with the insurance company that you're a company that often tries to inflate claims, because they do that.
And they absolutely do that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we teach. That's what we focus on. And then what ended up happening was, about halfway through the summer, I was approached by Balance Claims here in Indianapolis. So they're my neighbors, and I've known these guys for a while. We were competitors for years. And so they came over and they said, hey, John, we want to sponsor your events. We love what you're doing. We want to get behind you. We want to sponsor it. I said, that'd be great. So they started to sponsor it. It's not a sales pitch for them in any way, but it's the
tool you use, right?
Well, Balance Claims is the company that can handle large volume of supplementing. Yeah. And so they basically said, we want to educate the industry, because what they do better helps us do better. because balance claims is strapped to what the contractor gives to them. The data that they get from the contractors, the data that they're going to go to the insurance company with and say, this is what is actually being used on this job. And if the contractor is not giving us the right data, then we have a massive problem, because we can't just go and ask them to pay for something that's not warranted or doesn't have the right proof behind it.
Yeah.
Because Balance is a very, very, they're a very ethical company, and they carry lots of E&O insurance, and they operate things the right way. And so we're not going to do something that's going to put our company or our name in jeopardy. And that's why I saw that imbalance. And so they approached me a couple months ago and said, hey, we would love to buy the brand, have you come in and be part of the ownership team at Balance and help us grow this segment of the industry and help us become better and get this word out there. And so that's I'm now the director of business development and marketing for Balance Claims now. That's and one of the members there. So yeah, it's been a great thing to integrate Art of the Supplement with Balance, because we share the same cohesiveness, and we're very interested in, we're very aligned as far as our philosophies goes, and how we view this industry and how we're going to help the industry become better.
Well, that goes to the topic at hand. Thank you for that, by the way. It's interesting. people, when values align, that's when we get success. Like you and I've hit it off famously here in just very short time, and we've really just met. Sir. But it's when I find somebody that's easy to talk to and that's just straightforward, and you can make something complicated sound simple. It tells me you know what you're doing, and you've done it the hard way to figure out the easy way.
That's the reality.
Yeah. So we wanted to go back to the not work for free. So if you had some tips for our contractors on how to make sure they get paid for what they do, or as you said, not work for free, what would they be?
Well, I always try to liken it to it's all comes down to justification. And I don't know if you are familiar with this. And I think a lot of people in my classes tell me I reference a lot of TV shows. I mean, I already referenced Irishman on here. But that's my unwind time. But I used to watch this show called Justified, and it's about this guy that would go around. He was a U.S. Marshal, and he would, marshals were trained back in the day to shoot on sight. Sometimes like they were like pretty hardcore when they were chasing down fugitives. Well, this is a modern day Western, essentially. This guy rides around Eastern Kentucky with a cowboy hat, and he gets these fugitives into a bad corner, and he's a fast draw. And as soon as they feel like they got nowhere else to go, they'll pull their gun on him, and he'll pull faster than they pull, and he'll shoot and kill them. And so his whole thing is now he's justified because they pulled first. It's the same way for what contractors are trying to do. Okay, when you get an insurance company cornered into a place where when you give them all the right information and you present that to them, and you have now given them the license to pay your stuff.
Right.
Okay. But the goal is taking the extra steps to document properly, get the tools that you need to present these facts, because they're facts. They're not opinions. Everything has to be factual. You can't, which is a big deal for contractors, because contractors don't like facts. They all have their opinions on how things should be done. I grew up with a contractor in my dad. If my dad walked into my office right now, he would tell me everything that he was done wrong in this room when it was built. I mean, I built houses, and my dad walked in and would chew me out because my drywallers use nails instead of screws to tack up the drywall. He said, "You're going to have nail pops." And he was right. I did have nail pops. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is his opinion, my drywaller's opinion were totally different. Was one right or one wrong? Yeah, but there was no factual basis for that other than the results were extremely right. And so, but there's so many third parties that are giving us, like manufacturers are really good about giving us specifications on how things have to be built. Hague has a wonderful library of specifications and things that have to be done. Municipalities will give you the right information for their codes. There's code items that we have. There's code books. This Restoration AI is an amazing tool for waste factor. It's an engineer waste factor report.
Mm.
So it tells you, it's just like ordering an Eagle View, a sky measure or something. You just put in the totals into this report, and it kicks out a 4-page report explaining how the roof should be, how much waste is in the roof, how many actual bundles of waste, how much actual is used for the ridge cap, how much actual is used for the starter. And it's a very comprehensive report that now you can present to the insurance company, say, hey, look, you gave me 10%, but really the field shingles are only 8%, but then you owe me an additional percentage for the starter and the ridge cap. So maybe you actually owe me 22% waste. So
Yeah.
it's a very detailed report, and it breaks it down why it's wrong to bundle these items into the waste. And so at that point, it's massively important though. Tools like that are everything.
Yeah. One of the things that I talk about a lot, actually, I just had an article in Forbes on this, was finding the profit leaks in your business.
Yeah.
None of us are in business for business reasons. We're in business for personal reasons, somewhere along the line, right? This was my dad's company, or I just always wanted to start my own thing, whatever your personal reason is. Everybody's is different. But the reason that we're in it is because we need profit. We need either profit and money, which is the common one, or we want that freedom of time.
Yep.
If we don't track these little leaks, like the difference of 8% waste versus 22%, I'm actually paying to do that job.
Yes, sir.
Somebody's paying. It's the homeowner, it's the insurance company, or it's me. I don't want to pay to do your roof. I don't want to pay to lay the slab for concrete. Whatever your trade is, I don't want to pay to do that, right? I don't want to pay to build your kitchen cabinets. You need to pay for it, or somebody else does. And so these are profit leaks that exist in the business. And if you plug them, I'm not talking about changing the company massively, and neither are you. You're just talking about putting systems in place to make sure that the money that's flowing in and out of the company moves at the right pace, and what is owed to you comes to you and doesn't go back to insurance or float off into the atmosphere.
That's essentially what happens a lot of times, though.
Yeah,
is most roofers just take it on the chin. They don't know how to. They don't know how to help a homeowner help themselves in this process either. And that's a big part of what we teach too. Is that's the principle that lays the foundation for all this. Is policyholders don't have a guide that tells them how to file a claim. We wrote one. Don't get me wrong. I went and wrote one.
Yeah, but who's got the time?
But exactly, no one. But they have to be informed, because at the end of the day, the contract is between the policyholder and the insurance company. We're a third party. Like, they're doing us a favor by talking to us. But at the end of the day, getting these homeowners on board to understand how vital the O&P is, the overhead and profit, because insurance companies are notorious for taking the overhead and profit and including that as a separate expense. They have to, and they won't approve it on every job, which they should, because contracting is contracting. But I don't know if it's like this in Canada, but in the United States, and the look you're giving me tells me everything I need to know right now, because
it's the same.
Most businesses don't operate that way. If I'm going to walk over here across the street and get a sandwich, they're not going to tag on an extra 20% for overhead and profit. You know what I mean?
No, it's just built in.
It's built in. But in this business, the insurance companies, for whatever reason, took that out, and they'll give it to you when they feel that it's warranted, not when it's actually owed. And so giving a homeowner the tools and telling them, hey, look, you're going to tell the insurance company, we expect this to be paid so that we can warranty your roof and stay in business for the next 10 years, 15 years, however long. That's important. And so we help them learn how to lay that groundwork, and then, take all these tools, how to document. We use this amazing software called companycam. It's an app on your phone, and every contractor should be on companycam. It's one of the most.
Is it like site photos? Is it kind of the same thing?
Yes, it'll geotag your photos for you. So anybody in your company, you can get users on there. And I'll give your listeners, they go to companycam.com/AOTS for Art of the Supplement. They'll save. They'll get their first month for free, and that'll give them a full 30 days to try the software out, see if they like it. But I've never had someone try it and say no, it's a complete waste of money, because it gives them and think about this, for example. Let's say that you go and you take the photos of every single job that you do. Doesn't matter if it's roofing, side gutters, or else. And what happens a lot of times is a homeowner will come back and say, well, you guys cracked my driveway, or you guys did this, or you guys did that. But you can reference back to your before photos and say, hey, wait a second. No, we have all the photos of your house. This was there before. We have a photo that shows it. But most contractors don't have that photo. So what ends up happening? They just bought a whole side of siding, or they just bought some new windows for somebody or something else.
That
Another
happened to me
thing
as
that
a
I love.
painter all the time. I would go paint somebody's fence, and the lady would,
Oh
on the
yeah.
other side would come and say, "You put drips down this side. Now you have to paint my whole fence." And I'd be like, "Oh man." And you just feel
Yep.
like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And you're
You
just
don't have any
a contractor
documentation.
trying to get by.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is a tool that saves a lot of contractors in that way, because now they've documented, they have the liability very clearly shown. Like, now, if they made a mistake. Don't get me wrong, you should pay for it. But at that point, 100% that you made the mistake and it wasn't already there. Another thing that I love about companycam, and this is what I tell people a lot, this is the $1 million reason why every company should have companycam. If it was me, even if I'm just a roofing contractor, okay.
Yeah.
Let's say that I only do roofs, but I have documented all these houses that I've done over the years. Okay. And I've identified certain houses while I'm doing the job that, maybe I'll need windows in 3-4 years. Or maybe this house over down the street is going to need this group of houses that I've done work on are going to need new driveways, or they need to be sealed, or whatever else, maybe in the future. And you're able to identify these as you go for future work.
Right.
You can partner with a company, do that kind of, market to them. You've already built trust. You've already built a relationship with that customer. Why not sell them new windows? Why not sell them all these things that why not be the one-stop source? Maybe you don't want to do it, but you can partner with an HVAC company that you've identified these houses that have older AC units, or whatever it is. There's all kinds of things. The other way I see that is I liken it to like Amazon or Facebook or Google. Amazon, if I get on my Amazon account right now, Amazon's going to tell me what I want before I even know that I want it, because they know my trends. They know how I shop. They know what I do.
Yeah.
And so, they're probably listening right now anyways. So if a contractor can create these lists and basically preemptively start to sell to these people the way that Amazon does, they can do that. Amazon is going to have a really hard time doing that. As much as they'd love to, they're never going to have the data points that we have as contractors, because we're allowed to work on the actual structure. And so building these lists over time, if you decide you want to sell your business and you may have a good name, but imagine you have a good name, plus you have this amazing database of houses that are going to need, and it's very well organized. With companycam, you can hashtag them and say, this job is hashtag Windows 2024. And now, in 2024, you pull up all the Windows 2024 houses, you got a whole list that you can work off of.
And the seals.
That's the kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'll tell you, you just nailed it. If, one of the problems that we have is as contractors in selling our companies is a contracting business is tough to sell.
Absolutely.
It's tough to sell, and you can sell it internally. It's too easy to start one. It's too easy to start one, and what have you got, right? And you don't have recurring revenue.
Right.
The guys that have it right are mechanical contractors, because they go on service contracts, and some roofers do service contracts as well, right? But but other trades don't have those service contracts. If I'm going to buy a company, I want service contracts, because that's guaranteed cash flow for the future.
You just bought a paycheck.
You just bought a paycheck in the future. That's right. And so the data that you're talking about there is actually the biggest asset you can build for your company. So, I was talking earlier about working from the neck up. Mm-hmm. If you and your closest competitor are running the business the very same way for the next 10 years, but you add the data that John was just talking about, and to me, it doesn't matter what system you use, but how are you capturing the information about future purchases from other people? Or how are you getting them under contract? Those two companies that look like they're side by side today, at the end of 5 years, they're going to be very different. At the end of 10 years,
very different,
vastly different. And when it comes time for you to sell the company internally to your kids or family, or to somebody else, now you've got a sellable thing. The other guy's got a 10-year-old truck, 20-year-old ladders. What does he got, right? It's just asset sale, and you just sell that at a garage sale. Like, there's nothing there. No offense, but unless you're building it smart, you're building nothing.
Exactly. And that's what people come to my class and they walk out with a lot more than they really came in with. But that's the goal. Like, we want to help contractors become better and elevate their mindset and what they're actually doing. Because today, most contractors, especially in our industry, in the roofing side of things, these are one and done deals. They're not thinking about the future recurring revenue. They're not thinking about how important it is to get your business listed on Amazon today. Most people don't understand. Like, if you're going to market, there's a whole Amazon marketplace now for contractors, for services. And they don't understand like how important that voice element's going to be. How important it is that, because there's going to come a day where Alexa is going to tell you which contractor is going to come to your house. You're going to say, hey, Alexa, I need a pizza. And they're going to send you whatever pizza they want to send you. Unless you state, hey, Alexa, I want whatever pizza I want. I want White Cottage Pizza. It's my favorite pizza place in Chicago. Unless you specifically say that, Alexa's going to send you something else. So getting your name on these things now, today, while it's still early, is so important. It's going to make a huge difference in the next 10, 15 years. You know, all that kind of stuff is just, and I think that's what you guys are doing too. And that's why I appreciate so much what you're doing, because I think it's massively important to start to elevate the way contractors are thinking and the way that they're acting and the way that they're documenting it and taking these jobs more seriously than they are. Thinking more like very organized organizations, because those are the ones that are exploding. My contractors that are doing 30, 40, 50 million a year, that's what they're doing. They have these systems in place to solve all these problems. And
a business is just a collection of systems that works at a profit. It's true.
Yes,
and you know, one of the things that people sometimes ask me is they'll say, Dom, well, what construction trade are you in? I'm not. I'm not in the business of painting or landscaping or pest control or roofing or cabinetry. I'm not in that business. I'm in the business of business. And it's my job to teach other people how to run their business the way they want it, you know, but better.
Yeah.
And my actual job is I show tradespeople how to be a business person who happens to be a landscaper, pest control, cabinet maker, architecture mill, whatever it is. That's a big difference in a person's head, is when they go, hey, I'm a business person that happens to run X kind of company.
That's
things
huge.
Things change, right? Things change. And that's getting paid from the neck up. Hey, John, if somebody wants to, you've obviously got a ton of info, and I don't think we can cover it all off here. I wish we could just plug in and download your head, but since we can't do that, it's probably not legal. Although Alexa's trying.
That's why I spend 6 hours talking to contractors at every given time. And then I figure out why I ran out of time.
Yeah, there's so much info, right? But if people do want to find out more about you or learn from you or just read up, how would we find you?
So we have a website, artofthesupplement.com, and that's got all of our future events that are coming up. You can get tickets to events and that kind of stuff there. All of our podcasts as well, YouTube channel, all that stuff's there.
Yeah.
And then we have Balance Claims is now obviously the owner of Art of the Supplement. We're emerged and we're one company. If someone was wanting to get some third-party help, I mean, it doesn't cost a contractor anything to sign up with Balance Claims. We actually encourage our contractors to do a certain percentage in-house, and then whatever is left over, we're their overflow. So we set up with we have over 700 contractors that we work with. We have 40 some W-2 employees here in Indianapolis. They can go to balanceclaims.com and sign up for a quick conversation with Ricky. He's the main guy that gets everyone signed up. He's amazing.
Sorry, I have a question for you. Just because people might be listening on a podcast or walking their dog, whatever.
Absolutely.
Is it balanced ED? Like, how do you spell Balance Claims?
Well, you can actually go to both. So we actually own both domains. Balance and Balanced. Our emails are balanced. So my email is john.dye, D-Y-E, at balanced with a D, claims.com. But you can actually go to Balance Claims or Balanced Claims. Either one will get you to the same place.
Yeah, I saw that when I was doing my research for the show. I thought I'd throw that in there. Hey, John.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, but it is what it is.
No, it's good. You have both domains. You're all good. But if the email is one, not the other. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I appreciate the time. It's a busy season right now. This episode will go live in a couple of weeks. It's for those of you listening in the future. We recorded this the week before Christmas. So things are crazy here.
Excited.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. So,
well, John, by the next time we talk to you, we're going to see what TV series you've finished watching and what tidbits you can give us from that.
That's the truth. I don't know why I do that, but that's just the way it is. So
that's good. It's good to be known for something.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, John, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right. Sounds good.
Bye.